concert band has been part of my life for almost as long as music itself has. It's a remarkable combination of community, unique musical textures, and amazing repertoire. It's not an exaggeration when I say concert band has to be my favorite medium to compose for, and I hope by the end of this video, I'll instill into you that same enthusiasm. One of my main goals on this channel in relation to concert band is to introduce it in an approachable and irresistible way to both orchestra composers looking to give it a try, and those who aren't, and to first-time composers starting out in ensemble writing. Likewise, I hope this video is informative and entertaining to both experienced composers and those without substantial musical experience alike. The first thing I want to do is clear up some nomenclatural fuzz, particularly the difference between the phrases concert band, wind symphony, and wind ensemble. Short answer, there isn't really any. The phrase concert band came about to identify it as a band whose job it was to specifically play concerts, not parades or in the military. The term wind band or wind ensemble was to denote a band of musicians or an ensemble made up of wind instruments. The term wind symphony appeared later to emphasize that this was an ensemble that played for performance and gave formal concerts. A symphony orchestra but with wind instruments. Of course, concert bands have pretty much never only had wind instruments in them, they've always had a huge percussion section simply as a consequence of its origins. I want to give a brief historical overview of how the concert band came to be because I think it'll help give important context to how it differs from orchestra and why their worlds seem so unapproachably distinct in the first place. In fact, the orchestra and the concert band evolved entirely separately and only began to interact and intersect due to repertoire and instrumental development. As you may have known, the concert band evolved from military bands, whose primary tasks were to signal soldiers and to keep time while marching. These groups were mostly made up of instruments that were both loud and easy to march with. Drums, cymbals, horns, trumpets, fifes, etc. These bands eventually took up roles playing for festivals, municipal towers, and diplomatic ceremonies. Thus, the stationary role of bands developed. However, the reputation of the wind band as a sophisticated ensemble has yet to appear, mostly due to its lack of original music, which in turn was due to its lack of standardized instrumentation. Due to the unpredictable nature of band's instrumental composition, music written for band was pretty much exclusively either transcribed orchestral works or covers of popular music or other music not strictly intended for performance. And this proved to be quite the lose-lose situation. Either play popular music and further tarnish your reputation as a serious ensemble, or play orchestral arrangements and ruin a perfectly good classical favorite, according to a lot of people at least. It was around the middle of the 19th century that, through the efforts of Adolph Sax and John Philip Sousa, we begin to see very nice standardization come through, or at least we stopped arguing about which instruments belonged here. At this point, original music for bands was still quite scarce, but with new instrumentation consensus, we finally see composers beginning to show enthusiasm for writing for band. Gustav Holst, Percy Grainger, Paul Hindemith, and of course, the concert band scene is continuing to thrive despite having to play second fiddle, so to speak, to the symphony orchestra for its entire history. So, here in the 21st century, what instrumentation did all those years of history eventually give us? Modern concert band instrumentation varies greatly in terms of number, depending on the level, style, and of course budget, of the ensemble in question, though I'll attempt to lay out a template that is as contemporary and comprehensive as possible. So here it is. A modern-day concert band typically consists of 0 to 2 piccolo parts, usually 1 to 2 flute parts, sometimes more, 1 to 2 oboe parts, 1 to 2 bassoon parts, around 3 B-flat clarinet parts, though you'll find pieces with more, 1 bass clarinet part, 2 alto saxophones, or occasionally a soprano and an alto, a tenor saxophone, and a baritone saxophone for the woodwinds. For the brass, around 3 trumpets, 2 to 4 F horns, usually 4, though you'll find pieces with more, about 3 trombones, either 3 tenor or 2 tenor plus 1 bass, either a euphonium or a baritone, with the former being more common in high school and professional settings, and the latter being more common in beginner or student settings, and a tuba, which exact type isn't usually specified. For the euphonium and tuba, only one par for each of these instruments is usual, though in medium to larger ensembles, they will have multiple players on each, and many divisi their parts and could even write multiple parts for them. Depending on the level of the ensemble and the era of the music, several auxiliary instruments have been known to take part as well, and these include an alto flute, English horn, contrabassoon, E-flat clarinet, alto clarinet, contrabass clarinet, usually double B flat, bass saxophone, piccolo trumpet, flugelhorn, and around 2 to 3 cornet parts. Bands also oftentimes include a part for double bass, traditionally written as string bass in band scores, and they can also include harp, piano, and celesta. Even electric instruments like bass guitar and synthesizer have been known to show up. Percussion instruments that are used include almost always timpani, containing 3 to 5 drums, with 4 being the most common, alongside anywhere from 0 to 7 other percussionists, which play pitched percussion instruments including marimba, vibraphone, xylophone, glockenspiel, crotales, and tubular bells, unpitched instruments including, but by no means limited to, bass drum, snare drum, crash cymbals, suspended cymbal, tam-tam, tongs, taikos, tambourine, and my personal favorite, drum set, as well as auxiliary instruments like brake drum, mark tree, bell tree, cowbell, vibroslap, ratchet, shaker, temple blocks, wood blocks, splash and china cymbals, Latin percussion like bongos, congas, claves, and maracas, triangle, whip, and myriad others. I know this can be a lot to look at if you haven't been introduced to it before. I've put this list on my Ko-Fi page, where you can download and print it for free, or perhaps leave a tip if you choose. I believe lists like these illustrate that bands having explored instrumentation for so long didn't only provide us with unity, they provided us with possibility. And instruments combined just like this have spawned some amazing pieces of repertoire in the past couple centuries. There's of course John Philip Sousa with all of his famous band marches, Gustav Holst with Hammersmith and his suites for military band, Ralph Vaughan Williams with his English folk song suite and Toccata Marziale, Percy Grainger with Lincolnshire Posy and Shepherd's Hay, Donald Grantham with his Southern Harmony, Ron Nelson with Rocky Point Holiday and Medieval Suite, Frank DeKelly with Blue Shades, Angels of the Architecture, and Rest, Julie Giroux with Bookmarks from Japan and Rift and Wed, and Michael Doherty with Lost Vegas and Niagara Falls. Sorry if I didn't list your favorite piece, but there's only so many I can mention in one paragraph. If you have any more suggestions, leave them in the comments. Speaking of which, the final thing I want to discuss for a moment is the amount of impact the concert band has had on the music community as a whole. It really had a huge part in bringing musical performance to the whole population and making it more accessible. The band, back to its roots as festival groups, has always had a close-knit relationship with its audience, the kind orchestras never had. And because wind instruments were often cited as simpler to learn, there were plenty of opportunities for the general population to learn and participate in these ensembles, which helped dismantle the elitist tendencies of classical music beforehand. Then, of course, there's the contemporary education space. Concert band is often a provided elective all the way through high school, and it has provided a new way for children to begin their musical journey in a way that encourages leadership, creativity, and artistic expression. It certainly paid off for me. I couldn't imagine what my life would be now if concert band were never a part of it, and thank you for being here with me and considering making it a part of yours. I hope you learned something. Ask any questions you may have in the comments, and I'll see you soon.